Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dawn Jarvis Show. And I'm Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And this podcast, I talk about and to busy leaders, professionals and business owners who are part of my diverse nurse network. I learn about who they are, what they do and why they do it, and how they keep themselves focused, positive and productive. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Karen Bashford, and she's going to be teaching us how to empowering women to manifest the life they love after abuse and trauma. She's going to be sharing with us how we carry the energy of our ancestors, and we shouldn't let them influence our present, that our body communicates with us, and to avoid ill health, we should listen to it, and to take back our power. You are not a victim, you are a survivor. Karen, who is the manifesting lady, is on a mission to stop history repeating itself. After surviving 2 abusive relationships and losing her home and several life-threatening illnesses, Karen knows past lives and ancestral history, holding the keys to why many women are abused and traumatized. Karen, this sounds marvelous. Welcome to the show. It's so good to see you. How are you?
I'm brilliant, and thank you, Dawn, for having me here. Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure. We're really looking forward to this. So that is a pretty dramatic, I think, intro about, sort of past lives, abuse, marriages, illness. How did we get to here, and how did you become the manifesting lady?
Wow. Well, I married at the age of 21 to a man I didn't want to marry. But I didn't have the courage to say no at the altar, or even the opportunity to speak to my parents about it, because there was this shame element kicking in and people were going to judge me. Mm-hmm. So I married him, and 16 years later, I landed up divorcing him. Mm-hmm. But instead of giving myself time to recover from that relationship, which was quite abusive emotionally, mm-hmm. I went straight into another relationship, mm-hmm. which was physically as well as emotionally abusive.
Oh dear.
And it was like, I kept asking, why is this happening to me? And finally got out of that relationship, but then I started becoming ill. And it was like, why now? Why am I ill now? And that was the start of my journey. I wanted to know why abuse, why illness, and why wasn't I managing my money? Mm. Because that's why I lost my home, because I wasn't managing my money. Mm. And it all come together in a powerful moment of, oh my God, it's what I think, it's what I feel, and it's how I behave.
I see. That is really powerful, isn't it? And it's really interesting because I've met you and people like you, and before sort of my sort of business owning journey, I really wasn't sort of like, I didn't really sort of get sort of manifesting or you are what you think and things like that. But now I totally get it, and how sort of like your thoughts follow you and they become you, and they you sort of like, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, isn't it, really? So yes. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, on my journey to discover who I was, I trained as a hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. Mm-hmm. Having worked in a bank for 20 odd years, I shouldn't have stayed that long, but you know what it's like, too scared to leave. So in the training as a hypnotherapist, I become aware on some of it that there was past lives coming up for me. Mm-hmm. And it was like, so I was a witch, and I was being chased, mm-hmm. and I actually landed up dying. Mm-hmm. And that energy stays with you. But not only that, as I was going through the journey, it wasn't until probably about 20 years later did I realize that my mother and father never told me they loved me.
Yeah.
It never, ever really hugged me. It was something they could not do. It was something they could not say. If you don't feel loved, if you don't believe you're loved because you haven't heard the words, you think you're not good enough, you think you're not lovable, and basically you carry that energy. It's your beliefs, it's the energy you vibrate out. I'm not loved. So you go seeking love. But because you've got that energy of I'm not loved, you attract to yourself the same kind of people.
Wow.
They're not loved.
Oh dear. So that's quite sad, isn't it? So there's a couple of things there, isn't there? So you talked about this energy from your past life, being a witch, somebody that's not loved, and then feeling that currently in present time, and sort of like how that you sort of like bring that with you, but also that influences your thoughts, and then you encourage the same sort of behaviors in your other relationships, because it sort of becomes your truth and where you're comfortable with those experiences. And sort of what you're saying is that you carry that with you, and that you and I guess if you're aware of that, and you're aware of what this is, how that can and has sort of translated in time, it's about not letting it, that being aware of it but not letting it influence the now. Is that what you're saying, Karen?
Yeah, definitely. Once I become aware that the witch situation, and I don't know whether people believe in past lives or not, but the work I do, that is something that continually comes up.
Yeah.
That energy of being a witch is one of not being accepted. And when you're not accepted by society, you feel like an outcast.
Yeah, I totally
so you're
see
never ever going to be seeing yourself as acceptable.
Yeah, I can see how that translates. Definitely explained it really well.
Yeah. So that is going to influence your choice of people in your life for start off. So you're always trying to become acceptable for a start.
Yeah.
But if you don't feel loved, you naturally think everyone is going to reject you.
Yeah, I get that.
So you create that energy of rejection. So even if you bring somebody to you, you're automatically going to be looking, oh, they're going to reject me. They're not going to love me. So consequently, you create a scenario that causes yourself to reject that person, even if they're not rejecting you. You create that situation.
Wow. What can you do about it, Karen?
Awareness, big time awareness, because once you're aware, you can start taking actions that will help you.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, okay, so if I don't feel loved, what can I do? I started to learn to value myself first off. So it's recognizing I am lovable, that I'm allowed to love myself. I'm allowing love in. Now that can be love from an animal, from a child. Doesn't always have to be an adult. But it can also be doing things that you love doing. It's about recognizing that you're deserving of love. And when you demonstrate love to yourself by doing things, you're actually starting to recognize that it doesn't matter if an adult doesn't love me, if my mother doesn't love me, or my ex-partner didn't love me. It doesn't matter. What matters is you.
Definitely. I really like that, actually. I really like that sort of like the awareness, because we all carry trauma. Things happen, don't they? Things that we don't want to happen. You know, I, like you, have been married before, probably to the wrong person for whatever reason, and sort of recognize that sort of like repeating behaviors, definitely. And I think you can get stuck in that, can't you? And I think there's nothing you can do about it. But I think what you're saying is that recognizing it is the key, isn't it? And then it's practicing those behaviors that are like, so, you know, is that true? Am I not lovable? No, of course it's not true.
No.
You know, and we recognize that sort of objectively, but that's to do that for ourselves is a different thing. And then you have to practice those behaviors as if it's not true, and then it isn't true, is it really? Because I'm a real, as I said, I'm a real convert to sort of like this positive thinking and manifesting what you want to happen. You know, saying, if you say it, so I am lovable, you are lovable. That's just a fact, isn't it, really? And I've spoken to other people about that, and it's just like, you've got to say it. Just say it to yourself and to other people, and that becomes the reality. You create your own reality, don't you?
Definitely.
You know, I'm a nurse and we're relating this, and I love the way, so we've talked about this, how you relate this to health, because then one of the things you're saying is that, again, with that, your body is communicating with you, and you talked about your own ill health. So, you know, talk to me a little bit about that and about how that's great, because you talked about, you know, you became ill and you wondered why. So tell me about that.
Okay, well, the biggest thing that happened to me was an autoimmune disease. It was actually life-threatening, because technically I should have got it at 4 years old, but I decided to develop it at 40. And one of the things I've realized with autoimmune disease is it's your body's way of trying to tell you you are out of balance. Autoimmune disease is to do with being, how do we put it? It's your body's reaction to the fact you don't feel you are loved.
Yeah.
So when you don't feel loved, your body is saying to you, you're out of balance. So if you start to become aware of how your body's communicating, you can start making differences. Now, I developed my autoimmune after I'd finished my relationship with my husband. And it was my body's way of saying, thank God you've dealt with this. Because I'd been holding on to so much emotion around my relationship, because, as I say, it was an emotionally abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And I was just holding on and holding on. Nothing was ever allowed out. I wasn't ever allowed to express what I really thought or felt. So my body was saying to me, please stop this.
Yeah.
And when I did, by getting divorced, it went, oh, I can breathe.
Yeah. There's lots of evidence around the impact of stress and, you know, traumatic events on health. Actually, I do talk about this in talks relation to race, actually, and to, you know, trauma. You know, people have been through abusive relationships. You know, how, you know, PTSD, and actually how that affects your health on a long-term basis, both not only mentally but also physically. It actually changes your body chemistry. And, you know, so what I hear you saying is that the effects of, you know, this continued stress and holding it in. Now, women, they hold it in, they manage, don't they? You had a job, you traditional industry, you did your thing, and you know ran your home, looked after your family, blah blah blah. But all this thing is going underneath, and there's real evidence around how that has a cumulative effect on people. And then, you know, that they can just, you know, become diabetic. They can become, you know, I'm allergic to wheat, and they're gluten intolerant immediately, and it's come from nowhere. But it hasn't come from nowhere. It's actually come from, you know, years and years and years and years of things that have had a cumulative effect. So really hearing what you're saying there.
Well, for me, one of the things that what I love about working with the women I work with is potentially it can stop breast cancer.
Yeah.
Because breast cancer is about rejection and abandonment. Whether that's happened or not, That's what they believe. So that's how the body deals with it. And obviously the breasts are to do with nurturing. So if they don't feel they've been nurtured, the body reacts, hence breast cancer.
Yeah. It can. And I think so some people, so I have to say, because I'm a nurse, that there are
there are medical reasons,
and studies and links and the reasons things happen, and where sometimes people can't prove causal links, but they're there qualitatively. That's what people's reported experiences is, and that is not to deny experience. So because I was trained in a biomedical model, I sort of have to say I wouldn't want to listen to that. I'm stressed, I'm going to get breast cancer. So
far from it, but
definitely
it's having that awareness that you need to take control of your emotions. And if you're holding on to emotions because you're not allowing yourself to say what you need to say, that's going to have an impact on your body in some way, shape or form. Definitely. Not saying it's going to create cancer or anything like that, far from it, but your body does communicate. But if you listen and deal with the little niggly things that come up, you can stop a lot of the ill health that will occur later on.
And it is definitely true that there is a relationship between stress, trauma, PTSD, and physical ill health, however that comes across. And the best thing we can do to mitigate against that is exactly what you're saying, to be aware of our emotional health, to be aware of the impact that stress and trauma actually has a cumulative effect on our life, and plan for it. That's not to say you won't become ill, but but it also means that if you do become ill, you've got a better chance of fighting it because you're in a more positive frame of mind, and that is definitely backed up by empirical evidence. So you're absolutely right. Also, with the people that you work with, you talk about taking back your power and not being a victim. And I love what you're saying about being a survivor. Tell us a little bit more about that, Karen.
Okay. Well, to me, a victim means you're giving somebody else your power.
Yeah.
When you do that, you're actually stating, I'm not worth anything. Why should I bother with myself? But when you stop thinking yourself as a victim, it doesn't matter what's happened to you, whether you've been raped, whether you've been physically abused, whether you've been emotionally abused, it does not matter. While you're stating you're a victim, or have anyone else say to you, oh, you're a victim of, you're not standing up to your own responsibility of your own well-being and your own ability to control what happens in your life. Because when you're saying you're a victim, you make yourself powerless. It's a bit like manifestation. You attract what you believe. And if you're on what you're feeling, so if you're feeling powerless, you'll attract more problems from feeling powerless. So regardless of what's happened, and I know for some women this is going to be very, very challenging because we like to stay within that feeling of being a victim because it means that we gain something from it in some way. But when you're prepared to step up and say, actually, it's happened, I can't change it. However, I can choose to learn from it, because we can always learn from something that's happened to us. And I'm choosing now to take that learning and empower myself with it rather than disempowering myself.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but to counter that, what you acknowledged, that some people, I think they get stuck in that phase of their life, shall we say, that's the story that defines them. And I agree with you, and that some people get something from that. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that is some people who are chronically ill actually they couldn't become institutionalized with the sort of chronic illness, and that's their life. So I used to work with people who they were born with heart disease, and sometimes through the miracle of modern technology, they would have operations that would fix them. So they should be able to go and live a normal life, but it's actually very difficult having lived your whole life. So I used to work with them, some of them, and I work with babies too, but when they were sort of like going into early adulthood, but if you lived your whole life with a chronic illness and then somebody says you're cured, it's actually very difficult to move from that sort of lifestyle as I'm disabled to I'm not disabled and I can do anything that anybody else can do. So, and that's why the power of coaching and the sort of power of sort of communication and sort of like supporting people is really, really important, because I think when people feel themselves as victims, in inverted commas, that you actually need support to actually move from one place to another, don't you? So, so I understand, we've all had things that happen. You think, God, that was not a good thing. It was a really bad thing that happened to me. I think the key is it doesn't define you. And I like to say, what can we do? Which is what you're saying about taking back your power. Yes, this terrible thing happened to you. Yes, you've had this terrible experience. Yes, this person was awful to you. But what can you do? Where's your power? Where can you move forward? I think that's I think that's what you're saying, isn't it, Karen?
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Because I think, it's really easy to stay in that place, and believe me, I've done it loads of times. But
I think we've all done it. It's not exclusive to anyone.
I know, and I don't actually think it's exclusive to women either. I think, we sort of like, oh, they did this to me, get out of the way. But, that is true and has to be acknowledged. And I think it's important, to acknowledge, what people's experiences are, but in moving forward, it's always important to think, so that's a terrible thing did happen to you, or is happening to you, or is continuing to happen to you. What can or can't we do about it? What power do we have, and what power don't we have? And that sort of is a more positive moving forward relationship rather than getting stuck. And I think that's what the issue can be. So,
yes, definitely.
So, Karen, you wrote a book as well, haven't you? You've sort of like, so you've done all this work, you work with people around this, and you've written a book. Tell us a bit more about your book.
Well, it's How to Be Imperfectly Perfect.
People who are listening, Karen is holding it up and it looks lovely.
Thank you. It's very much about taking you back to who you truly are. What happens, unfortunately, we're born and we start taking on the energy of our ancestors, we take on the energy of our parents and the people around us, and then we start listening to things that we're told, no, you can't do that, or why are you doing that, things like that, and that has an impact on us. So the book is very much about my journey to now, but also it gives hints, tips, exercises and examples of how it's possible to change your life by creating different energy within yourself, by releasing the past and taking back your power, by recognizing you're entitled to have boundaries. You must value yourself. And when you've done all that, you can start manifesting.
Which is brilliant and really good, and sort of like, so that well, I will have links in the show notes to Karen's book, and I recommend that you and she sort of like builds on the points that we've been talking about today. And do you also have something you want to share, like a freebie you want to share with the audience as well, so they can get started on this journey?
I certainly do, and it's a ebook that's downloadable, and it's from confusion and frustration to control, balanced, and fulfilled.
Oh, I'm loving that.
And it's literally looking at your life. Where are you unbalanced? What areas are you just focusing on but forgetting about the rest? Because to be truly fulfilled and to truly manifest what you want, you have to bring everything into balance.
Definitely. And how do you keep, so this is, nominally around health and wellness, and, and we always talk about it as relation to sort of my guests or what I think around, health and wellness, because it's all part of your holistic self, isn't it? So, so one of the things I always ask my guests is, how do you stay focused, positive and productive? You're a business owner, you work with people, you have to be quite boundaried. It's very time intensive and you're giving a lot of yourself. So that's my first question. And the second question is that, how do you manage your own health and wellness? I know that you've been ill before, and you've sort of found these methods to sort of think about things and be really positive about it and move forward. But so how do you embody sort of what you're saying, basically?
Well, I love nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I put myself out in nature. I live very close to nature, so I've got nature all around me.
Mm-hmm.
So that keeps me balanced. I make sure that I ground myself on a regular basis. I also have this habit of checking in with my body.
Mm-hmm.
What's not right? What's feeling off? What are you trying to tell me? And quite often I'll be, oh, okay, you're unhappy with what I'm drinking. Okay, I'll change it, because my body, I've learned that my body is very, very good at communicating.
Yeah.
I've had such practice now with it that I know instantly when something's off.
Brilliant.
I also have a tendency to ask, which might seem strange, but as I go to bed of an evening, I acknowledge the kind of day I've had, I acknowledge the emotions that have come up and such, but I also ask when I go to bed to receive guidance for what I need to know to keep myself healthy. And it's phenomenal what you can discover.
It's true, so you're not the first person who said that to me, actually, around that sort of and actually the person who said it to me, they do that at the beginning of the day. They sort of ask for ask for the sort of day that they want, and to sort of have the to be shown what they need to get that. So yeah, you're not so you're not the first person, I think, and it works very well for that person as well. So that's a really really good tip around that. And does it work?
Yes, my body is very good at telling me what I need to do, but I'm also conscious of the fact that when I ask, I have to listen, and I will always receive.
That's fantastic. So how can people stay in touch with you, hear more about you and your journey, the work you do, if they want to work with you or just see how you're progressing? How can people get in touch with you, Karen?
Well, I'm on Facebook as the Manifesting Lady. I'm on LinkedIn as Karen Bashford. I am on Instagram as Karen Bashford, 4323. And I've got my own website, Karen Bashford, although that will be changing to the Manifesting Lady.
Wow.
Because it's about supporting clients. And if you would like to know how I could work with you, you can book a call with me at karenbashford.com, and we can have a 30-minute chat, no obligation, just to ascertain where you are, where you want to go, and what might be stopping you from getting there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I recommend that you do that. So we're coming towards the end of the show, Karen. It's been absolutely wonderful, fascinating, seeing your perspective on the world and sort of how that you've managed your life, basically, and your own journey. Is there one tip or nugget that you want to share with the audience as we close the show?
You are powerful beyond belief if you choose to take the mantle up and run with it.
That's really good. I'm loving that. And so true. And that's, I think, all of us, that we want to sort of empower people to get them to be the best selves, to be where they want to be. And that's really good advice. Thank you, Karen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I know I'll see you again soon because we're connected in lots of ways. So that's it for the Dawn Jarvis Show. Thank you so much for joining us and spending your time with us. If you like what you hear, like, subscribe, share the show, and it's also good to hear your comments on what we've talked about in whatever format you see the show. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.